Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and so glad to have you on board. If you're watching us on the live feed, thanks. We'll do some shout outs here in a moment. If you're watching us after the fact on our YouTube channel, thanks for finding us. And if you like the content that you see delivered on a weekly basis, please do us a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into our channel, and comment. We do like to interact with you, and if it's not at a show, that's the next best thing, is in the comment section. Well, let's see who's joining us tonight. I see Sid is here, Wardell is here, DG Model Works has joined the house, Canadian Locomotive Logistics is here, George, Willie, Greg, KCG Rail, Gilbert, Anthony, and Jason. Looks like Jason's got some comments down there, and we'll get to those comments later. After the presentation, but I hope you're enjoying the fall. I'm having a great fall so far, and I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite times of year because I don't have to feel guilty about not doing the yard work. I can actually come in here and work on the layout, although the last few weeks I've not really done much on the layout other than to run a train every night. That's because I've been busy and I've been on the road, and I continue to be on the road. If you're going to be in Milwaukee this coming weekend, you're going to see me and my associate Mark at Train Fest. Looking forward to that. Also, this past weekend, I got to hang out with some great guys in Indianapolis. We'll talk a little bit about that during the presentation. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday. Let's do one more round of shout outs. And we want to welcome Randall, Union Pacific 8518 Productions. Mr. Walt is here. NSWLE has joined us. Elko Steam. And Randall. There's a lot of Randalls tonight. Steve. Now, as I'm doing this, I want to make it perfectly clear that while I'm doing the presentation, comments are to my bottom right. So if you see me looking down, that's me looking at the comments. And do me a favor, if you've got some questions about Athearn or anything that we're talking about during the presentation, save them for after the presentation. I'll be more than happy to answer some questions. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let's grab the beverage of our choice and get comfortable in our workshop chairs and start with another Train Tuesday. So, exciting news for you guys. The Berwick Bathtub Gonds are now in stock. Now, these are really kind of cool cars. Kind of a transitional car if you think about it. After the coal cars of the past, these bathtub style cars were really useful in the fact that because of the way they were built, in most cases, coal or the commodity could be easily loaded and unloaded, and that bathtub not only kept more product in the vehicle itself, however, it also kept the center of gravity really low, which really helped these cars track nicely. Now, some of them you'll see have colored ends that dictated which end had the rotary coupler. Now, what's really cool, back in my home state of New Hampshire, we used to have a power plant in Bow that took coal, and rotary cars like this would enter a rotary dumper. Now, basically what that meant was in the old days, coal cars were manually loaded and moved and cut and then unloaded back and forth. Lots of work. With these types of cars, with a rotary coupler on one end, and again, that color designating what end had the rotary coupler, a whole string of cars could be pushed into the rotary dumper. Usually, like in the case with Bow Power Plant, they had a remote controlled locomotive that was operated by a couple of guys. They would put that car into position, the rotary dumper would clamp down on the car, and the whole assembly would rotate 180 degrees, dumping the coal and then putting the car back upright, leaving it empty. And then once it was unclamped, the next car was fed into the rotary dumper. Pretty cool to watch. I only got to see it happen once, but really cool. Now, these cars, of course, were made by Berwick, and they were kind of, like I said, a kind of a transitional car. They were really popular in the 1970s, and they still continue use today. Now, they've been slowly sidelined, slowly retired by more modern coal cars like the Bethgon aluminum style cars. However, that doesn't mean that their usefulness has not come in handy. A lot of them now, and a couple we're going to talk about tonight, have actually started to be used in hauling scrap. They've extended the sides of the car. Since the scrap is lighter than coal, they can load these up with scrap metal and take them back and forth. And we've actually done more than just update these models. We've actually added the functionality of these extended sides. So let's go ahead and show you what's going to be available and what roads are available. Now, we originally announced these back in October of 23, so about 2 years ago. However, keep in mind that these are nothing like the original ones that we came out with in the previous run. Yes, they look similar, but the details are so much better. They're more refined and they're going to have more detail than the previous versions. And also, we did those extended side versions. So if you're modeling the 2015, 2010, anywhere in the 2000s era, you can add these to your roster. So here's the new model with the extended sides. And I do have one here on the layout that we'll look at a little bit later. But the first one is, and this is a mouthful, Conshohocken Rail, LLC. This is scrap. This is a 2015 era car. And we've offered it, so if you just want the single car, you can definitely go ahead and add that to your fleet. However, you can also get 2 3-packs. Now, the 3-packs and the single, of course, don't have to worry about duplicating road numbers. So if you want to get the whole set, you most certainly can. So pretty modern day, 2020 era. This is CWPM. When we announced these a couple of years ago, a lot of people said, hey, I've got pictures of these. I've got some pictures of these. And yes, product development did find a lot of pictures of these guys. Again, you're going to have the option of a single as well as 2 3-car sets. Now we're going to go back to 1977. If you look carefully, this car is brand new. So what I like to call factory fresh. Now, it obviously didn't stay factory fresh for long in coal service, but we wanted to give you guys in the 1970s a nice new car to start with. Here's the Union Pacific for 1977. And this is going to be available in the single road number as well as 3-car sets. Now, in the corner of my eyes, I still see people asking questions. I'm not going to answer questions until after the presentation, so try to hold tight. I know a lot of you guys are super impatient. So I'm the most impatient person you'll ever meet. Let's keep those questions to the end of the presentation. Here's another road. We're going into 1980 era. This is the Salt River project. We're going to offer this in single as well as 2 3-car sets. And I should say, these are actually available at your dealer. Now, if you pre-ordered these, you're probably already enjoying them on your layout, maybe getting them ready for the next modular meetup if you're into a modular club. But if you didn't pre-order these, I highly suggest getting in touch with your dealer now because they're not going to stick around for long. Here's one that we haven't run in a while. We ran them in the past in the previous runs, but this is the first time Wisconsin Public Service Corp has been run in the updated bodywork. This is a 1994 era car. This was one that was highly requested through our product development's product suggestion line. So for you guys that have been hunting for these on eBay, your wait is over. You can get these through your Athearn dealer now. However, that being said, I wouldn't wait too long. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting for these on eBay as well. We had to do some Prime for Grime. This is a 1978 plus car, utility fuels, Prime for Grime. Now, the thing I like about this car is we've updated our Prime for Grime standards. It used to be we would kind of mute the colors, fade the colors a little bit, but they were still overall glossy. If you look carefully at this car, that black is almost a really, really dull, dark gray, which is the way it should look. But if you look carefully, if you look at the reporting marks, you can see it's a little bit different shade of black. That's because in the real world, they just would have shot some black paint over the old reporting marks and stenciled in the new ones. And that's what we're replicating here. Really cool 1978 era car. You can still see the ACI label there on the end. And definitely one that you're going to want to add if you're modeling the late 70s into the 1980s. Another Prime for Grime, David J. Joseph. DJJX, you can see same thing here. You've got the really nice weathered black. Even the trucks are weathered on these. And you've got the reporting marks that have been painted over, different shade of black with new reporting marks. Now this one's a 2015 era. You can see we've got the conspicuity stripes on the side. That's definitely placing us into the 2000s. But what's really cool, if you look carefully, the old ACI label is still adhered to the car body. Yeah, every once in a while, you don't see them as much as you used to, but you still see them hanging on. And here's one that a lot of you guys probably pre-ordered. Originally the O&W, now it's Pacific Rail Leasing Corporation. What's kind of cool about this one is that minty green color has gotten really, really light over its years. Originally a 1970s era car, and now it is a Prime for Grime 1991 era. Again, we're seeing a lot of guys modeling the 1990s, so we want to offer these for you guys that are modeling the 1990s. Again, you're going to have that muted colors. The trucks are muted, and you can see that there's a slightly different shade of green over the original reporting marks. You can see the reporting marks right over the old paint. Pretty cool. You can also see some fading in there, and we'll see one of these in detail in a moment. So let's talk about these. These are upgraded models. They've got much better fidelity. What does that mean? So when an Athearn product developer starts working on a project and we find out that the molds are starting to show some wear, they're starting to show some age, instead of just fixing the molds, we update the molds. This is the perfect opportunity for us to add details that we may not have been able to add in the past. It also lets us refine things. So as a result, if you were to park one of these new offerings next to one of the previous runs, you would notice that the definition is much sharper. The focus on the detail is that much better, and just small, subtle refinements all the way around. Now, we can't say it's a brand new car, but we can say that it was pretty much really refined from the trucks up. Now, these are going to have separately applied grab irons and ladders, of course, brake wheels. These are pretty much weighted for trouble-free operation. However, they're not quite up to the NMRA weight limit. If you want to take them to the NMRA limit, it's not going to take much. The cars are actually pretty good as is. These have the body-mounted McHenry operating scale knuckle couplers. Again, I know not everybody's a fan of this McHenry couplers. Easily changed into the coupler brand of your choice. These also have the machined metal wheels and with the RP25 contours, so that means that they're going to operate on all types of manufacturer's HO scale track. Now for myself, the layout behind me is code 70, but these cars will run fine on mass-produced sectional type track, if it be code 100, code 83, code 70. They all do really well on those tracks. And of course, the biggest question that everybody wants to know, will they run on an 18-inch radius? Well, yes, they will, and we'll prove that point in a little bit. Now, Athearn Product Development really recommends a minimum radius of 22. That's mainly because it just looks better. We're going to see that they will operate on an 18-inch radius curve without any real issues, but it does look a little funny. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and see what kind of questions we've got. Now keep in mind, as we talk about these cars, a lot of these cars are still in use. They've found new ways of being used in the scrap world. So they're still soldiering on. Let's see. Harold says the DJJX looks great with the clay colored ballasts. Yes, it does. You know, the other thing I forgot to mention too is the loads that come with these, they can be removed. In fact, while I was talking to the guys in Indianapolis this past weekend, some guys, what they'll do is they will glue a magnet to the underside of the coal loads or whatever loads that they have, and they can make those functional so it looks like they've actually got full loads and then empty loads for operating interests. Yes, sir. Just like we said, Randall. By the way, Jim, some of these cars are still soldiering on, hauling scrap metal and ties. They still look much like Athearn models depicted here, except a lot more beat up. Yeah. Some other ideas for you. You can do scrap metal. You can do ties. They find a variety of things to throw in these guys, and they do get banged up. You know, once they go to a scrap metal dealer, I've seen scrap industry in action, and they're not exactly delicate with these cars. So, if you're you need a scrap dealer on your layout, make sure you do some weathering as well as some uh, some banging around of these cars. Fred says, "How about some Burlington stuff?" Well, do you mean Burlington Northern Santa Fe, Burlington Northern, or what I like to call the OG Burlington, the CB&Q? Next week, you should be in luck. We're going to be talking a little bit about the CB&Q. In fact, we're going to go back in time on the layout to the 60s. So that means we won't be seeing any BNSF next week on the layout. So stick around next week for that. Let's see what else we've got. Jason wants to know the GP40-2s Genesis run still due for January? Probably not. They've been delayed. I don't have a firm ETA on those yet. I'm still hoping for spring, but let's see what else we've got. Yes, Fred. So CB&Q, you will be happy next week. We're going to have some red and gray on the layout. All right. Winston, hello, fellow Boston and Maine fan. You are definitely from my neck of the woods with that military garb. Yes, thank you for joining us. Brian always wants more Chessie. It's kind of like his version of more cowbell, more Chessie. We'll have some, just not tonight. Cliff wants to know any more word on the N-scale Automax, not Automat. Automat would be, I don't know what the Automat would be. Automax cars. I'm thinking the last I checked, we're looking at, I think it's March or April of 2026. Sid, sorry, I don't have an ETA on those NSC 6400s just yet. John is buried with getting some more things done in front of it. Sorry, autocorrect. Yeah, I get it. Autocorrect does that to me every time. All right. Well, before we get started talking about these cars a little bit more, I wanted to share with you what I was up to this past weekend, and also Aaron Wagner, who is our service center guy at Athearn. We took a little mini road trip. We went to Indianapolis and we saw the guys at the Naptown White River Model Railroad Club, and they basically allowed us to have a meet and greet. We got to meet with some club members. I believe there's some other folks from outside the club, and we had a good time. We basically talked trains. I mean, doesn't get any better than that. I told them a little bit about the industry, how Athearn picks locomotives and freight cars, how we do our shows, how we do a lot of things, and tried to basically give them a little bit of what you might call inside baseball on how Athearn does things. And we had a good time. We also got to run some trains. And myself, I was pretty busy with the camera, but Aaron, I'm happy to say, he was running his Illinois terminal GP7 and matching caboose and running our new coal cars, not these coal cars, but the ones that we're going to talk about next week, the Athearn 3-bay coal cars. And he had a pretty good sized train. I think I set him up with about a dozen or more cars. And that little GP7 did a great job navigating throughout the layout. There was only once or twice he needed a little bit of helper on a grade, but the club was great. Let's go ahead and show you this past weekend. There we go. Too many screens. So once again, if you want more information on the club, just there is a link in the video description below. But here's some motive power that I've seen before. There's our 75th anniversary SD40-2, along with the matching caboose, which even I did not get the caboose. The caboose is extremely hard to find. Here's a neat ground shot. There's a couple of SD70 ACUs, as well as we've got some Amtrak action in the background. There's an overall shot. One of the guys had all of the military SD70 ACUs. Now, for all you guys that are going to ask, now that you've seen those pictures, when is the 5-unit set coming? When is the D-Day invasion version coming? Well, I was hoping to have them for Train Fest. Unfortunately, I haven't received them yet, but we are supposed to get them sometime during the month of December, so hopefully soon. Here's a nice road shot. If you look carefully, there's a car having a little bit of issues there, and the town EMT and police and rescue are on the way. But check out the Canadian National. This is a neat train they were running while I was there. How about some SD60s, SD60Ms? A couple of these, Genesee and Wyoming's, were kind of helping out in helper service as needed. The whole time I was there, I think I can't remember how many trains they had running, but it was quite a bit. When they turned the power on, it sounded like I was standing in the middle of Galesburg. One of my favorites, SD70 Mac, and the old executive screen scheme, but you can see it's got the BNSF swoosh applied to it and a bunch of Bethgons behind it. I do believe those are the latest run as well. And here's Old Reliable MP15 AC. We just shipped these, I believe, about 2 or 3 months ago. I think they came out in the summer, and I believe we did a Train Tuesday about that earlier in the summer. If you missed that, go back into our YouTube channel and you can find that video. This one was working out in its own little industry. And then finally, the motley crew, myself and Aaron, and the guys from the Naptown and White River Railroad Club. So I want to thank these guys. These guys were awesome. Hospitality was awesome. We had a great time. Mainly anytime I get to go somewhere and just talk about the hobby and run trains and see everybody and talk face to face, it's an afternoon well spent. Now, we were going to stay there till about 3, but we ended up staying there till almost 4 because we were having a lot of fun running trains. Now, Aaron is the tall guy there in the green shirt. He's the guy that does service on Athearn locomotives. He's been a model railroader for well over 25, 30 years, starting out just like a lot of you with the Blue Box models and working all of his way up. He is an accomplished modeler. His father was a modeler, and also we're both rail fans. So anytime I get to spend a short road trip with Aaron, it's always a lot of fun because we geek out about this stuff, and we typically talk about just trains to and from the event. So Naptown and White River, here's a shout out for you guys. Thanks again. That was a great time. Looking forward to the next time we get to meet, and always a lot of fun. So there you have it. Also, don't forget that I'm going to be at Milwaukee this weekend. In fact, I'm going to be leaving here in just a few short days to go set up the booth. And Mark Williams, who I like to call He Who Herds Kittens, basically the guy that runs and manages Athearn, he's going to be there as well. So if you've got questions, if you're going to be there, you can come to the booth. You can ask us questions. You can see the new stuff that we're going to be bringing along. We'll have some samples with us, and we'll have some gifts for you as well. And will there be any big announcements? Not really. However, don't forget that we did have an announcement last month on 2 brand new models. That's the 36-foot 1870s and 1920s era flat cars and gondolas. Those are brand new tooling, and we're kind of sticking our toe in the water here. If you modeled that era, you know how difficult it is to get freight cars. You're either going to scratch build or you're going to kit bash an old toy version from 30, 40 years ago. Well, these models will allow you not to worry about that. You can just start fresh with a brand new model. Let's do a couple of more questions, and then let's run some trains. Let's see. Aaron was the guy in the green. Yep. That is a beautiful switcher. I do have one of them. I had to buy one. Sid says that Ohio Central is knocking on his door, so you better not keep them waiting. Let's see. If you had a question on something and I didn't see it because I was doing the presentation, now's a good time to go ahead and put that question in the comments. Let's see. I'm going back to see if there's any questions. Mr. Goring, thank you for joining us tonight. Any news on the PNC Jeeps coming? I don't have any news for you at this moment. I am working on, Mark has been working closely with the factory on getting some dates. I'm hoping to get some ETAs up for you guys in the newsletter and possibly our website. I may even have something as early as this weekend at TrainFest. It's a large document that I'm working on. It basically says what month certain projects are landing. Now, it's not all-encompassing. It's not complete, but a lot of the high-level projects that are going to be landing here in the next 6 to 8 months, it'll give you an idea. So I'm hoping to have that done soon. I don't have any, you're probably talking about the Versacoils. I don't have any info on the Versacoils right now. I did talk to John. Keep in mind that we all work remote. So John is on the West Coast, high up in Bend, Oregon area. And I was talking to him the other day. We were already talking about Amherst, and he's letting me know some of the things that he's going to be bringing as far as samples to the Amherst show. If you can make that show, it'll be great. We're also going to try to record it too, so that if you don't get to go to the show, you can see what John is going to be showing. John usually brings a lot of stuff that he's working on that I don't typically get to see. So like you, it'll be a new thing for me as well. And he'll kind of give you an idea on where product development is on certain projects. Let's see. Anything for the 250th year anniversary next year, and will they be released next year and not 2027? Well, we try to keep an 18-month window of production open. So if we announce something now, like let's say we did the Boston to Maine number 200 for the celebration of the 250th, since bicentennials were such a big deal in 1976. We wanted to offer it again. Will it be delivered next year in 2026? That's our goal. That's our plan. Now, there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last year that's really kind of hurt production. And, you know, like I said before, and I said it during the club open house, a lot of people don't like it when I say this, but when the tariffs did come out, our production did stop. And once production stops, it's not like you can just push a button and it goes right back to normal and everybody's ETA is the same as it was before. There's going to be lag, and we're still paying for that lag. Now, things could change between now and then, so it's kind of hard for me to say, but our goal is to have it out by 2026. Now, going into next year, are we going to be doing things for the 250th? You bet we are. Product development is hard at work on putting together what's going to be available for pre-order in 2026. So you'll be seeing a lot of red, white, and blue next year. Dave says, I appreciate Athearn doing those truss rod flats and gondolas. Going to order a slug of them. Yes, please do. And if you haven't done so far on not just those, but any of the announcements that are on our website currently, you've got till November 28th to place your pre-orders. Now, I've said it before, I got to say it again as a friendly reminder, unless you pre-order, you're probably not going to get these. It's one of those things you really need to talk to your Athearn dealer and pre-order. And if we get enough pre-orders, simply put, we do put them into production. There are some items, however, in the past, we haven't gotten as many pre-orders as we need to make it worth our while to produce them. So we canceled them. I know that's disappointing, but that is the business in which we are in. So get those pre-orders in before November 28th. That way you won't be disappointed, or you won't be like me, missing freight cars that you should have pre-ordered and forgot about or just simply didn't do. One more questions and then we'll run some trains. Jason wants to know anything on the Southern GP15s. I sadly missed out on pre-ordering one. Well, if you did not pre-order one, I would be finding dealers online and everywhere you can. Without a pre-order, your chances aren't impossible, but they're close too. West Coast has been asking this question all night, so I do want to address it. When will the SD9s come out? Lots really want them and have requested them for years, and there are no updates. One time I heard the SP5472 at Niles Canyon Railway was measured at Athearn model trains. We don't have anything in the production queue at this time. That doesn't mean we're not going to produce it, but we don't have an ETA on when a particular locomotive that isn't even on the schedule right now to be produced. So we're probably a few years down the road on those. All right, let's go ahead and run some trains, talk about these cars a little bit. All right, so there is the new version with the extended sides. It's kind of hard to see with this black. It kind of fades in there, but I'm going to get something to point with. Here's our extended sides. These have all of that great detail. Now, the thing I like about Athearn cars, especially if I'm doing an operating session, there's just enough detail to satisfy most guys. You'll notice, unlike a Genesis, you don't have the cut lever here, you don't have the air hoses, but let's think about this for a second. If you're doing operations and you're coupling and uncoupling cars, do you really want to risk Ron or Bob to pop those details off your Athearn Genesis car? Probably not. The Athearn cars hold up really well, yet they're perfect for operation needs. So that's one of the reasons why I like these cars. You've got some great detail down here. All of your end platforms, your brake detail. And the other car that we're going to move into view here. Sound is still off. Here's our coal car. These cars, again, these have been really refined. So if you look carefully, if you compare these to the older cars, the rib detail is a lot more defined. If you look real carefully, I'm not even sure if the camera can pick it up. This is prime for grime. I'm going to try to zoom in on these. Let's zoom in on the reporting marks first. Zoomed in a little bit. It's very subtle, but you can see where, almost like in the real world, somebody had masked off that area, painted it a different shade of green, and stenciled on the new reporting marks. If we move down the other side, look carefully. Light might be picking it up. You can see where there was something here, but they've painted over it. It's very, very subtle. The brown print faded from what used to be a nice dark black. It's very subtle with these particular Prime for Grime. Other cars are not. Now this is all based on images that our product development team have found. And so some cars that are Prime for Grime, they may be a little bit more subtle, like this one here. Others, however, they might be even more dirty and grimy. It just depends on what the product developer finds in their research. Now again, the coal loads are removable. I'm not going to remove this car, but I'll show you. Here's the load. And again, there's ample room in there if you wanted to. You could definitely glue a magnet in there to make that removable. They just set in there ever so slightly. So they got a nice load that comes with them. You can run them with or without that load. It's not a problem. All right, I'm going to set the camera up here for the next shot. I want to show you guys how well these operate on a 13-inch radius. So I'll put my camera right about here. That way you can see for yourself. And we'll turn our sound back on. Now, while I'm operating trains, just feel free to drop a question in the comments. Again, comments are to my bottom, to my right. If I'm running the train, I might not hear you. So we're easing around the corner here. I've got an older Genesis caboose I'm using as a shoving platform. And we're just going into that 18-inch radius curve. The sharpest point of that curve is going to be right here. And I want you to take a look. Kevin wants to know, are these Berwick's extended guns out soon or years out? No, they are available now. Talk to your dealer. If you didn't pre-order one of these, Kevin, talk to your dealer now because they have shipped. And yeah, they are available, but they are going to be probably a little hard to get because most people pre-ordered them. Charles wants to know the road number of that caboose. It is 10099. It's a release from a few years back. So as you can see, these cars have no problem negotiating an 18-inch radius. They function just fine through there. And I'm going speed step 2 just to show you that you don't hear any noise or anything like that from those cars. They go around there just fine. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. I did a lot of work on it this past summer. Kevin, awesome. You pre-ordered them. I'm glad to hear that. Your next question is, you might have missed it, but we talked about it briefly at the beginning of the show. We are hoping to have those in before the end of the year. I really was hoping to have them in time for Train Fest, but they have not shown up yet. So we're going to let that back into my siding here. And then we'll just do some switching real quick, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Man, this is the best time of year because you can actually get work done on your layout. A little further here, we're going to give it a little bit more. Now, if you're wondering what I'm using, tonight's locomotive is the recently delivered Athearn Genesis GP39M. It is fast becoming one of my favorite locomotives. I really love that turbo whine that this locomotive gives. Delta 9 says my layout could handle a scrapyard. Yeah, you're right. It probably could. Got just enough room to put another industry on this layout later on. We'll see what happens. It might just be a team track. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. All right, let's get that camera up. Let's see, before I go too far. Tim wants to know, Jim, is there an update on the Athearn GP60s, BNSF Prime for Grime? Also, we can hear the prime mover. Thank you. That's good to know. I did some microphone settings, and I'm glad you can hear that. You're going to see those in the spring, and I can't wait because one of those BNSF GP60s is going to find its way on the layout. We should be seeing those in the spring. I want to say around March or April. So your wait's almost over. Remember, they took a little bit longer because this is the first time we're offering them with lit number boards or beacons. In the past, they didn't have that. All right. Let's get BNSF 2795 loose. And let's do some switching here. I'm going to leave my shoving platform. While I'm doing this, I'm also going to watch for comments. Ian Green wants to know any updates on the CA11s and HO. John has gotten a lot of work done on those cars. He is still doing some refinements, and our goal is to have both the HO and the N-scale versions available at the same time. Obviously, we're moving a little faster than what they would in the real world, but you get the idea. Now, again, these are running on code 70 track. We're just going to pick up the O&W, former O&W cars. Gonna have to cheat. I'm looking at comments while I'm running trains. Jim, I saw an announcement on the Mass Coastal Energy Hoppers 8 months ago. Also, are you guys planning to get a license from them for future runs on locomotives? That's a good question, and that begs the question is, if they want licensing, it's going to be really dependent on how we can do on sales. If we think the sales will, justify it, we may pursue it. However, that may be a pretty tough haul. We would have to sell a lot of locomotives to overcome the licensing fees. And in some cases, we may have to pass the licensing fees on to you. So that's a tough call. It's not a no, but it's something we would have to look at. Harold, thank you. That is very kind of you. I put this layout together this past summer. Illinois had a rather rainy summer. I had a brainstorm one day, and I spent pretty much the entire summer not just working on the layout, but also working on the studio. There's some new technology, new cameras, new microphones, whatever I could think of to make this more interesting for you guys. All right, I'll uncouple this guy. And keep in mind the extended height that you see here, it's all new tooling. It's brand spanking new. Folks that are asking about the layout, right now it is the industry that you see is not going to be the permanent industry. I have selected an industry that I hope will showcase a wide range of Athearn models, as well as keep my own personal interest peaked. And then perhaps once that industry is finished, I'll add another spur for a yet to be determined commodity. Now you look carefully here, you can see the loads on these have been removed. So for operations, you can simulate, loads and unloads rather easily. This layout would normally not get cold. Again, if you're interested, the GP39-2 that you see doing the duty here tonight, these are probably still available at your Athearn dealer. If you pre-ordered one, you're like me, you're getting some runtime on it. And if you haven't pre-ordered and you like the looks and the sound of the 39-2, which by the way has operating number boards, and if you've got the correct era, operating class lights as well, like the DNH units. I do like the operating number boards. That's really cool. I'm kind of on a curve, so I'm going to cheat here. Move my coupler a little bit. Didn't quite get it. There we go. So there you have it. These cars are available. They are in stock right now. And you can get them at your Athearn dealers. So don't forget, if you like GP38-2s, we do have pre-orders open on GP38-2s. Alco guys, we got RS3s open for pre-order as well. So you're going to want to go ahead and talk to your Athearn dealer before November 28th, because after November 28th, they're all gone. So with that, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling. And if you're going to be in Milwaukee this weekend, stop by and say hi. Let's talk trains. Let's see what you're working on. And I will see you next week on Train Tuesday. Until then, high greens, everyone.